Massachusetts beef farmer Rid Shin is using a time-tested agricultural model known as holistic herding, which he says helps cut his farm's carbon emissions by putting CO2 back where it came from, in the soil.
What we have discovered is that you actually sequester huge amounts of carbon by grazing correctly.
Holistic herding was developed in the 1970s by Alan Savory, a biologist and game warden turned rancher in what is now Zimbabwe. While observing herd animals such as buffalo, deer, and antelope, Savory noticed how they naturally move to new grazing areas daily, unlike domesticated animals, which are typically penned in the same pasture for months at a time. As a result, they denude the land of CO2-absorbing plants and churn up the ground with their hooves, releasing soil-sequestered carbon in the process. Rid Shin says he's preventing that kind of overgrazing by employing Savory's holistic herding system on a section of pasture.
We take that same 50 animals and we put them on a very small part of that 50 acres for one day. And the next day we move them off that 1 acre. So that acre is now resting. And by the time we get around the whole 50 acres, putting them on an acre a day, 50 days have passed. And this piece of ground has had a chance to rest and reinvigorate.
Holistic herding builds on nature's carbon cycle. Soil needs carbon to help create the rich nutrients essential for healthy plant life. When herd animals roam through the area, they graze down the vegetation. Their hooves act as tillers for dead and decomposing plants. Their manure and methane waste act as fertilizers to help grow more vegetation. Pasture plants such as clover and grasses help to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in the soil. And so the cycle continues. Philip Metzger with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Natural Resources Conservation Service says holistic herding can prevent the serious reductions in farm output caused by overgrazing.
And you can see it in agriculture today, where we're having to put more and more inputs into the soil to get the same yields. And that's because we have reduced organic matter in many cases by 50%. So that soil now has much less holding capacity for water and for nutrients.
Metzger says holistic herding can also speed the regeneration of badly overgrazed soils in just 3 to 4 years, compared to the decades it can take if the land is simply left fallow. The results with holistic herding have been so positive over the years that developer Alan Savory was awarded the 2010 Buckminster Fuller Challenge Award, a privately sponsored $100,000 prize to honor strategies that help to solve humanity's most pressing problems. The award cited Savory's Operation Hope, a program that trains African communities to practice holistic herding. The method has also proved popular with ranchers in Australia, New Zealand, and with agricultural extension services across the United States. U.S. ranchers like Rid Shin are passionate advocates of the system.
So optimistic that you can change a whole biological system that quickly by applying the herbivores correctly.
In addition to reducing CO2 emissions, holistic herding also requires less land because cattle are kept together in a series of adjacent fenced paddocks instead of being left to roam over large, unmanageable areas. And sheep, goats, and other large livestock can also be grazed this way. The U.S. Department of Agriculture hopes new federal farm legislation due next year will include incentives for U.S. ranchers to adopt holistic herding practices, encouraging them to not only reduce overgrazing, but also to shrink agriculture's big carbon footprint. For VOA News, I'm Erica Celeste in Hardwick, Massachusetts.